Presented by Kia.
Welcome back to The Jump. ESPN senior writer and host of the Low Post podcast, Zach Lowe, joining us now. Welcome, sir. And I don't know if you've heard, because I can't bother you all with a crazy smoke machine this year. It's time for a key player alert. Oh, yes, we're using the siren today.
Another one.
And the key player is not a free agent. It is Rookie of the Year, John Morant, because this might be the most important story in the NBA. Yesterday on The Jump, we told you that the Memphis Zoo named a new giraffe Giraffe after Ja Morant. Get it? Yeah. Today they met each other. Zach, I'm overcome with joy at this.
Animals are awesome. Animal-human bonds are awesome. Zoos are awesome. I love everything about this. I just hope they stay in touch. I hope they form a relationship, that the Ja visits him frequently. I mean, I think that's important. The giraffe is going to get used to these celebrity visits. You can't abandon the giraffe after one visit.
The giraffe.
Right.
Okay. It's so good. I'm just so happy that they're friends now. This made my week. Seriously. All right, Gordon Hayward. Let's talk a little bit about him, because, Zach, you have been on top of this story all week. Gordon did, in fact, opt out of his $34 million player option with the Celtics. He's an unrestricted free agent. So, Zach, what is next for Gordon?
You could argue he is now the number one unrestricted free agent on the market. And this is a very complicated situation with a lot of moving pieces, right? Like, he could still re-sign in Boston. Boston could sign and trade him to any team that has assets that it wants, doesn't even need cap room. Then you have the Knicks opening up a lot of cap room. The Hornets have cap room. There are a ton of balls in the air right now. I will say this. Boston and Indiana have been talking trade for the last couple days, and I think Indiana was very smart to wait out Gordon Hayward's player option deadline, because now that he's opted out, Boston has the risk of losing him for nothing, and I think Indiana, although he just can't walk there into their cap room, gains a little more leverage in those trade talks. So, but there are a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah, it is given age.
And that's because he could re-sign in Boston for more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can re-sign the biggest deal in Boston, but I suspect the money will be relatively equal no matter which option he chooses.
Yeah, that's a significant amount of money to opt out. You have to wonder if he already has a deal on the table. You know, when you're a player up there in age and you've been injury prone and you turn down $34 million for 1 year, you have to wonder if he has another long-term deal on the table. In most cases, players, you know, they arrange those things, but it's great timing for him because, you know, he does become the number one free agent. Because Anthony Davis most likely is going to sign with the Lakers. And, you know, he's that player can really, you know, help a team get to that next level, whether it's championship contention or even to the playoffs. So I think it was a great business move by him.
Or, Paul, he could be lining up to get a lot of money from the Knicks or maybe the Hawks. You know, they have a lot of money there, and you know it's a great opportunity for Gordon to go there, the Knicks, and be a starter again and help take some pressure off an R.J. Barrett and kind of groom him into being a star player and a go-to guy, and not have him having all of the pressure of being the player to save the Knicks. Now you bring somebody with a veteran like a Gordon Hayward to kind of help with that, or he can go to the Hawks. And with the money that they have, and you know they have a lot of young guards in the Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and they just brought in Snell, so they would have to maybe move a wing player possibly. But those are options as far as him making a lot of money. And like you were saying, as far as why would he turn down that type of money? But if he's looking for contention, then you know possibly the Pacers or something like that.
It's so interesting. Certainly, Vince, hearing you talk about Atlanta, because you know quite a bit about that team, having just left that roster. And look, with Gordon, his circumstances have changed so much since when he signed with Boston. When he signed with Boston, coming from Utah, the idea was that the team was going to be rising and rising around him with their young stars. Of course, that terrible injury on opening night in Cleveland and the way their young players developed ahead of schedule has changed everything. And first with Kyrie being there, and now with Kemba being there, it's just more hands that want the ball. It wouldn't shock me if he wanted to go somewhere else. In addition to the money, wanted to go somewhere else where he could be more of a focal point of the offense. Okay, guys, I want to switch gears, though, to the West Coast.
You got to think real quick. For Boston, those two guys are great. those two guys are great. So it's tough to kind of say now, hey, Gordon, look at what we have here. They have two talented young stars of the future who will be obviously contending in the East and making the All-Star game for years and years to come. So it's kind of like the odd man out for Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, and there's a point where you just want to be able to play basketball the way you want to play it, and that is valuable to all of these guys too. All right, let's switch to the West Coast. Klay Thompson, mentioned it at the top of the show. We've been talking about it for the last 24 hours, that right Achilles tendon tear during a workout on Wednesday in Southern California. Thompson's agent, Greg Lawrence, told Woj that Thompson is expected to be fully recovered for the start of the 21-22 season, but gosh, that feels like a long way away. Woj also reports the Warriors are finalizing a trade to acquire Kelly Oubre for a 2021 protected first-round pick, which will become a second-round pick if they finish the regular season in the top 20. Now, Golden State will absorb Oubre and his $14.4 million expiring contract into a trade exception. This is fascinating. They only had about 36 hours to get this done, costing the franchise, and this is the huge number, guys. I want you to listen to this. $66 million extra dollars toward its historic luxury tax bill. So, Vince, I was going to say tax money aside, is trading Oubre enough to help fill the hole of losing Klay, but I don't even know how you put it aside, because basically you're talking about adding a player who is not going to win you. That's not pushing you over the edge to a championship, and you're spending an extra, on top of his salary, an extra $66 million.
Well, that tells me that they're still trying to win now and still stay relevant. You know, they want to stay, you continue to make the playoffs and stay relevant and keep your stars. I mean, obviously you get Klay back the following year, but they feel like they have a good nucleus of guys, and you get a healthy Steph Curry back now. So I still see them making the bottom half of the playoffs, somewhere between 5 and 8. But I like to see them add a free agent like a Avery Bradley if he opts out with the Lakers. Somebody like Avery Bradley as well to help with ball handling, and now maybe moving Steph to the 2 every now and then to be the shooter that they're missing from Klay Thompson. Not saying that Oubre is not the shooter, but you want Klay you utilize Steph's lights-out shooting, so why not bring somebody like Avery Bradley who can now go and guard the best player on the other side as well? Perimeter
First of
player,
all,
let me say.
huge commitment from the Warriors ownership. You know, for a year that's probably going to be a lost season in terms of championship contention, to pay whatever gazillion dollar figure you just mentioned, that's a real commitment. They didn't have to do it. It's a real commitment. Second of all, shout out to Klay Thompson. He's absolutely a beloved player across the league, one of my favorite players to watch. We are all hoping and praying that you recover. And as far as the Warriors, I think Oubre fits really well. He's a decent 3-and-D player. His shooting ticked up a little bit last year. We'll see if that's real. His defense can get a little better, but I think he fits well. And also, he's only 24. They can re-sign him. He can be part of the future, and they can figure out whether he or Andrew Wiggins is the more valuable player as they go down the line. And there's been a lot of conversation in the last 2 days about whether this is the end of the Warriors. And it might be. It might be the end of the Warriors as a championship contender. But all this stuff about, do they look to trade Steph? Do they look to blow it up? To me, that is way too premature. This is Stephen Curry. This is the kind of guy who could be a lifer, a 3-time champion already on one team. I think you just hit pause for a little bit. Let's shove. I know all stars move around and they all get traded here and there. I just think Stephen Curry is a different kind of situation given the equity he has in Golden State. And let's just hold in place for this year, roll it back next year, see what the team looks like. Can you get one more run out of it?
Yeah, Oubre, I think he's a fine young player, but it makes me think, what type of style do you see the Warriors playing this year? They don't have the luxury of the shooters without Klay Thompson. Obviously, they don't have Kevin Durant. And how much of a load is going to be put on Steph Curry? Is he going to have to play like a James Harden type of role just to help this team get into the playoffs? Who knows what's going to happen with the development of Andrew Wiggins? So they have the talent to be a playoff team. And no, they're not contenders with this move, but they put themselves in a position that they could be one player away, maybe an all-star or superstar back in the lineup to put themselves there. But, Oubre, while he's a fine player, he doesn't put them over the top, especially with the loss of Klay Thompson.
Well, guys, that's why I kind of said
I'm very impressed.
Getting a point guard or like an Avery Bradley or somebody who can handle the ball and now utilize Steph's ability to shoot the ball and run up off screens a little bit, because I agree with you, Paul. Like, who will they be? What is their identity now? So I think, if you're going to have Steph there, use them in different ways. Put them in different parts of the floor outside of just being the point guard.
Well, I'm super impressed with Warriors ownership for making this move, at least making the season better for their fans. And by the way, the government in San Francisco, just at least for now, rejected their plan to test fans coming in the building so they could have increased fans. That's not going to happen. So that revenue, at least right now, is not going to come in for them. And they made this decision anyway. We'll see what or if they do next. All right, guys, stick with us, because coming up after this break, producer Danny told me I get to use the siren again.
Okay,
So,
let's go.
Hang out. We'll be right back.
Alert, alert, alert.